every other person is, in the end, a mystery. And I think it's a humanistic duty, at least it is for me, to try to understand the other. I guess it sounds quite exotic for an Arabic reader when they hear it's a novel, a coming-of-age novel, written by a Norwegian, taking place in Norway, like 40, 50 years ago. But these are common humic topics all the time. I'm writing about situations where any people can recognize themselves, to relate to. I hope, and it has been translated into languages as exotic as Azerbaijani and Chinese, and I went these places, and most of the people have no problem to relate to the story about this little girl and her older brother growing up in the suburbia of Oslo, even though the surrounding, the context of the story may seem very exotic. We are all human. We are more similar than different. That's my message. Imagination always works on memory. Memory is the laboratory, the resources, the fuel, the machinery in any kind of creativity, whether you like it or not. Even James Joyce was a realist when it comes to at the bitter end, writing about Dublin, everything that he had experienced in his life, his everyday life in Dublin, his childhood in Dublin, is the culture, and it's the same with me. So I have fantasy. I'm very creative actually, but I like to think about myself as a what shall I say, a magic or a realist, but a realist. I'm working from memory, but I will not call my novels autobiographies. When even in this book, there is a first person. There's a first person narrative. Someone is telling this story, but I'm not that person. I pretend to be that person, and it happens to be that I know the culture and the society that they are living in very well from my own experience. And this gives me a lot of freedom because I can step out of my own memory when I need to, when the narrative demands it, when the situation demands it, or when I can create something better or even more emblematic or more typical or thing that I want to say or focus on. I can step out of my own me, so to speak, and that's the great benefit of doing both. as you said, both memory and creativity has to be present. At least they are so in my books, all of my novels actually. Like this. Yeah, really. I'm not flattering you. I was flattered actually. When I have a translation, it's like an extra bonus. When I get translated into German or French or whichever language, it's always a bonus. And it always makes a writer happy. And Arabic, of course, so far away, so exotic, so different. Even though we are similar, it was a huge pleasure, and I appreciate it, really appreciate it. It's no doubt about it. I'm so convinced that literature can narrow down gaps between people. All arts actually, like music, chess, painting, whatever. Music is international. It's an international global language. Yeah. Literature, of course, has, and so is chess. I look upon chess as an art form. Literature, of course, has to be translated, and that's why we are very, very happy with the work that the translators are doing, so that we can be able to speak to each other. But always when I go around the world to present my books, I always discover what we have in common and what we not have in common, and that the books are serving as a bridge over this gap. And we can discuss it, talk about it, and learn to understand each other in a better way. I'm convinced that literature is important in this regard. Not only when I grew up, my whole life I've been reading so-called exotic literature from China, South America, wherever, and always have had a great pleasure in it. And my favorite writers are from Russia. They are not Norwegians. So, learn to understand how other people are living. Read a Japanese novel to understand more of the Japanese society. Reading Mahfouz from your country and understand more about your country, or Camus from Algeria, or whoever. Yeah, and I like Russia. I like the Russian culture. I'm not that fond of politics there, though, I must say. But I like to go to Russia. I have my books are translated into Russian, and I like to go there, talk to people, travel around. It's so much more brutal than most people know about Russia. It's not that dreary. Communism is not that visible anymore, except from on the countryside, of course. But the cities are becoming more and more modern and beautiful. And the people are great. And I've always loved classic Russian literature, and I read it again and again. So I don't know why. It must be something that connects my soul to the Russian soul. I don't know what, but something. There is a love there. Like all love, it's not so easy to explain. I have different relationships to all my books, and some of them are, you may say, more personal than other. I have been written historical stuff from the Middle Age, from the Viking Age, from a historic novel from the Second World War taking place in Central Europe. A novel that was quite famous internationally about the Winter War in Finland. And these topics are, of course, not that personal for me, but they are just as important. And every book has its own story. The period of my life when I was writing it, of course, is meaningful. That's important. So when I look back on them, I can't single out one of them that I'm more fond of than the other one. They're all part of me. listen to them. I like to think about children as small individuals that you don't educate, but people that you learn to know, people that you let grow. Give them freedom, give them support, give them trust, give them responsibility. Try to figure out who they are, because we are all different. We have all our own identity, and to try to shape a child into your own image of a perfect child is always dangerous. At least I think so. Let them grow. Let them come. That would be my advice. When I grew up, I actually went to school. It was very strict, very rigid, very a lot of discipline, not much freedom, not much space to develop, to become creative, stuff like that. Mm. That was what I hated about school, because I loved learning, but I didn't like the military regime, so to speak. That changed a lot in the Norwegian schools, by the way, since I was in school. But it's reflected in the book. The main character in the book, Finn, he grew up in the same area as I did, in a working class neighborhood of Oslo, and it's actually built on a true story about the girl too. You see, I have my stereotypes about Egypt as you have about Scandinavia. So I don't know what suits but I have a great colleague here in Norway called Lars Saabye Christensen. I don't know whether he's translated into Arabic. He is very good. Just make contact with the agency, and you will be able to check it out. It'll be translated into English, German, French, a lot of languages. There is a Swedish author called Sara Lidman, whom I love, a woman whom I'm very, very fond of. There are Gabriel Garcia Marquez from Latin America. There is Jose Saramago from Portugal.
Yeah, those are very known here.
I like the first novel by Günter Grass, for instance, The Blechtrommel. It's called The Tin Drum in English. I like the Japanese writer Kawabata. He's beautiful, very poetic, very, very, very subtle. A beautiful writer, actually a Nobel laureate. I would recommend the one I mentioned earlier, Lars Saabye Christensen, my colleague and friend. If you like Child Wonder, I think you will like his stuff too. Okay. Just look him up, and he has got a lot of titles, and try to do some investigation into the English translations, and you will see whether you like it or not, or whether it's interesting for you. But he would be my choice. Yes, as a writer, you of course spend a lot of time alone, sitting alone. You have to love solitude, being alone, being your own master, being capable of doing the work without a boss, without anyone outside telling you what to do. But you are also very, very dependent on interaction with other people. I have a lot of friends. I like to travel. I like to meet them. I like to talk to people. That's why I'm so upset about the lockdown, because you can't move around anymore. And I know a lot of my colleagues feeling the same way. Normally, we travel about, we travel about in Norway and Sweden, Scandinavia, to meet readers, to talk to people, to talk to translators, to meet different publishers. And you can't do that now. And all these things, this connection with different milieus, with different cultures, with different people, has now, of course, come to an end through the lockdown, and that's not good at all. Even if you sit alone and in your own solitude, and is the master of your life and your work, meeting people is the oxygen that you need. First of all, it was, of course, flattering. It was very well received all around the place. It even was shortlisted for a very famous literary prize in China. It's very far away. What was most interesting is that the receptions is always different. When you come to when I came to China to talk about this book, for instance, they were all very interested about the one-child policy that they are pursuing in China. It related a lot of their questions to this question that they thought was very, very important for them, and about a single mother with 2 children. That was very exotic and very interesting. Other places, like in Russia, they are more directly related to the content. They have similar suburban areas, working class areas where these people grow up. Yes. They have a more similar history, of course. Most interesting is that every country has had their own reception of the book. That's a cultural specificity of the different languages, which I find very interesting. I never get the same questions when I go to France and to Germany, for instance. They always focus on something different, and so some are more interested in how the book is written, the point of view, the first person perspective of the narrative perspective of the book. Others are more interested in the content. Some are more interested in the mother. The feminists, of course, are more interested in the mother situation and her background, and she has to work and is doing quite a lot of struggle in her life, which is very popular in America, for instance. Yeah, there are different takes on it everywhere, and that's the whole spectrum. Actually, it has been very interesting. There are a lot of reasons. First of all, it says one line in the book that she's coming into his life with an atomic bomb in her metaphorically speaking, of course, in her little blue suitcase. Normally, when you create a piece of fiction like this, and you want to introduce a force from outside to make the people react to that force, to bring forth the character, so to speak. That comes to character building in a novel. In this case, I have introduced weakness into the life, the quite idyllic and harmonic life with this young boy and his mother. They love each other. They have not much money, but they are actually living quite okay. And then all of a sudden, this little girl enters and is changing everything. It's changing the perspective on themselves. The mother has to rethink her own life. The boy has to grow up faster than is actually healthy for him. He is exposed to a lot of challenges, taking responsibility, like an 11-year-old, and he's a very confused boy, and he is, during the process, so to speak, losing his innocence. going through the transformation of being an innocent child to become a more, I wouldn't say cynic, but a more disillusioned grown up, or a teenager at least.
Okay.
And I found that quite interesting, to introduce weakness as a force, someone that you have to take care of. There is also a message, or at least a topic in the book about solidarity. Take care of people whom you don't understand. Let them grow. Listen to them.
Yes.
Everyone, every other person is, in the end, a mystery. And I think it's a humanistic duty, at least it is for me, to try to understand the other people, what's going on in your brain. I have been married for 45 years to the same woman, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on inside her head. And so, but just a metaphor for how I'm working normally with my characters in the book. I used to say that I'm always writing to find out what's going on in the head of the other persons.